Welcome to Unhappy Teacher, the podcast where we rethink education and uncover life's lessons that truly shape who we are. I'm your host, Courtney Sela, and today I have back with me my lovely guest, Levonne Gigger. Now, we've had her here on our show before, and we are grateful to have her back here. Levonne is not only a mom of 3 boys, she's also a former educator and a Zumba instructor and a wonderful active traveler. She's been all over. And so let's give her a warm welcome back to our podcast. Thank you so much for being here again.
Thank you for having me.
And I love your dress. I love the brightness that you're bringing today. I love it. I love it. Love your aura.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what's been going on since last we spoke? It's been a year. Can you believe it?
Has.
It's literally been full circle a year.
So congratulations, season 2.
Thank you. I know, right? I can't believe I'm in it. I'm still doing it. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, but we're here, and I'm glad to have you back again, man. It's been a year, and so I know, a lot can happen then, I know last time we spoke, you were, again, recently stopped teaching, and you were doing some acting, right?
I was.
Yeah,
I
how's
still
that
am
going?
a
Still
bit.
doing? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So now, look, just catch me all over. I've been on Peacock. I've been on Lifetime. TV One.
Yeah. Life's definitely taken a, different trajectory. I know this was like you started again as teaching in the classroom and things went a little different, which we'll jump into shortly, but then it was like, hey, acting, doing background work really found you and kept you afloat during that time, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm enjoying it. I'm still looking. So any directors having hi.
I'm here for hire. Just for hire.
Right. Can cry on cue. Like, listen, I got you.
Yes, and then you also picked back up Zumba instructing, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how's that going?
It is going fine today. Listen, my hair is a little bit frizzy. Look, I had to pull it together to get on camera for you.
It's all good.
Look,
though.
we had 5 newbies today.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
wonderful. I mean, girl, a lot. You got married, right?
Yes, I was gonna say I acquired a name.
Yes, you acquired. Yes, please correct us.
Yeah, so I am now Ekachukwu Gigger Ekachukwu. So
Ekachukwu. And where's your husband from again?
Nigeria.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So now you have 2 homes.
I do. Look, feeling like 3 because I still love Ghana.
I know, right? Such a
Listen, and he does too.
Yes. That's wonderful. So I know, life has a lot of ups and downs and, toss and turns. But, every time that, I see you, you still manage to put a smile on your face. How is that, Levonne?
Listen, you see it? It's,
How do you do it?
Man, I'm tapping into to Jesus.
Yeah.
Real big. I am in the look. Now you're gonna look at. You're not supposed to have me crying in the first 5 minutes. I am now in the hardest. I thought I was in the hardest thing that I'd ever faced when I was here last time, and then they sprinkled a little bit more. But now I am facing the death of my 5-year-old granddaughter, and walking through that daily.
Yeah.
And so, grief is a lifetime journey that I am in. And look, even just 2 days ago, I was in breakdown.
Yeah. How recent is it?
She died in July
Yeah.
of 2024 due to a drowning death. And I plan on doing some work that I'll talk about a little bit later to bring some light to the circumstances of that. So yes, very recent and just like not something that you could just ever imagine losing them so young and just losing a child. Just it is a lot.
Yeah.
And just even finding out how someone that has been on the earth for only 5 years has impacted your life so much. Like, man, you just didn't even know.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and
look,
now
you just lit up just thinking about her, right?
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure, you know, it's grief, like you said, grief. You could say it can be months, it can be years, you know, but you still you still have that, and I just want you to know that I believe you are, you know, you exude strength. But I know nobody wants to be strong all the time.
Right.
But when I look at you, I just know that God has a special calling for you always, because I mean, just knowing a little bit about you, you know, in our personal stories that we've talked in the past, whatever, and what you choose to share, things that you may not choose to share, you wear the armor of God. And no one can deny that. And you know that too.
Listen,
so
every year I'm like, can I please get off the strongest soldiers list? Please, Lord. Look, this year, can I get on the?
But you got a testimony. You gotta keep sharing. You have to keep sharing and talking about it when you feel like it, when you feel the time is right, because God's not through with you. The things that you have gone through, I mean, you can really help save other people's lives. I know you said there's things that you're working on, and you know, regards to your grandbaby's death, that can possibly bring awareness and help other families. But just who you are as a testament, you know, and then and again, like a year ago, and where you are now, you know, there was some grand things that happened. You have a life partner now there to support you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how I would have. You know, and that's what he said. He's like, man, God sent me here during this time to support. And then, you know, having another teenager again, doing teenager things.
Yeah.
If anybody has one.
So in talking about, you know, because this show isn't, you know, always about education, but just talking about, like, you know, life's lessons. What has life taught you recently? What lessons have life taught you recently? Because, you know, we always think we know something and we get it, and then here comes something else. So what lessons are coming to you right
now? I am having to hear people's perception of me and taking that in, particularly with grieving. I completed a grief recovery class. That was an 8-week class. And even learning that grief is not just over death. And also, a lot of times people think that grief is over divorce, but there are over 40 losses. So grief occurs over any loss that we experience. And there is this beautiful grief recovery class and course, and that I actually because I want to take on too much in my life. I want to actually adapt this curriculum and make it for children. Because if we begin to teach this to children in younger ages, we will begin to process loss appropriately for our whole lives and not be lost when we become adults, not knowing. What I've learned is we don't know how to lose things, from losing a pet to losing our favorite pencil. Then, of course, losing people, losing a job, losing a partner. So we don't know how to lose things. And so when we are grieving these losses, our personality may change and we may deal with people differently.
Very, very deep and in depth, because, you know, when you think about loss, when I think about, you know, just loss in my life, you know, I recently, you know, it's not more so death, but I had to lose a part of who I thought I was. And so when we speak about loss in, you know, different aspects, you know, like, okay, well, I was this person, I was the dancer, I was this, you know, I had the dance studio. And so it was like, okay, that's not a part of me anymore. I was a teacher. I'm recently not teaching anymore. I'm like, that's not a part of me anymore. Who am I now? You know, and having to process that can be scary when somebody's out in the world and you spent so much of your life dedicated to this.
Who am I?
And now, like you said, perceptions of other people, like, well, who are you? What are you doing now? And you having to kind of explain yourself and what you're doing. You know, it does. It takes a lot of work to be okay with the loss of something, whether it's, you know, an old identity that no longer fits you, no longer who you are in this season. And so, yes, definitely think about children who experience all different types of loss, or, you know, even grief, helping them at a young age so that they can become emotionally intelligent adults.
Yep,
Because,
yep.
you know, we walk around with a lot of baggage that, you know, unfortunately we weren't able to really, you know, manage or understand at such a young age. But, you know, when you think about your life and where you are today, and you think about, you know, Levonne back then, that young girl, that teenage girl, like, do you think that you've had tools before to understand loss or grief in your life?
Nope. No. And the book that we used, the first 3 or 4 chapters are dedicated to explaining society's ills of how we are ill prepared to deal with loss and all of the harmful things that we say and do with addressing loss. And
Please name some.
Yep.
Please
the first one is replace the loss.
Mm.
Your pet died, you can get another one.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine your baby died, you miscarried, you can have another one.
Mm-hmm.
This just happened to a friend. Your baby died, you can have another one. You're young.
Yeah, you say that to somebody, right?
Like, what?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And just get over it.
Yeah.
Time will heal all wounds.
Another
no,
one
it won't.
Another one I just heard recently, and I don't know, it was maybe to a radio show or something. They say, you know, when somebody dies or somebody experiences death, and you tell them like, oh, but they're in a better place,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, what? That doesn't help them, and you know, it makes us feel more comfortable. Like, how do we comfort a person? It makes us comfortable that we said that to them, but that's not helping. Yeah, we do a lot of those things. Yes,
and so that was a part of the work, is identifying what we as society do, and that they classified it as 2 things. Either there are helpful comments and unhelpful comments, and what you just talked about is that category of unhelpful comments, because we are uncomfortable watching people hurt. Yes. It is uncomfortable to just watch someone cry and wail. And it's okay to just be quiet and watch them wail. It is just be still and be quiet and let them have that moment. And so in a moment, and I've been teaching people that, so if I'm allowing someone to be in my grief circle of comfort, hey, if I'm having a Layla moment, that's what I call them. If I'm having a Layla moment, this is what I need from you. You can either be quiet, or it would be helpful if you just say, I know, or I know it's unfair, or man, it would be great if you could have that. Because I might be saying, oftentimes I'll say, I wish I could have a hug from her. Or I wish I could hear her call me Mom Square. That was my name. You know, I just wish I could hear her call my name. Man, wouldn't that be nice? Right? Those types of affirming. But to say, well, she's in heaven with God now. Well, her being up there might be a factual or intellectual comments, or what they're classified as. That's an intellectual comment that we may agree upon based on our spiritual belief system. But her being in heaven right now doesn't help me today missing my hug.
Right. And part of that, is it, I mean, you know, I'm not an expert on it at all, but I would think that in part of that grief, or that you're feeling, or that day that you're crying, like, you have to get that out. Like, you have to expose that out of your body. Like, it's healthy, isn't it? Like, to let these emotions out. If I'm crying, like, that's good because I'm feeling something. Yeah, it may make you feel uncomfortable. It may hurt me, but having to get that out is needed.
Yes, and then the other thing that we learned was about STIRBs, short-term relief boosters. Okay. So these are the things that we do to try to not feel. Shopping, drinking, staying out, You just out at the club until it closes.
Distractions,
all of these distractions, social media, gaming, just to not feel, to not think anything, for when that thing rises up in you. But you should let it rise up. It may not produce tears, it may produce tears, but whatever it produces in you, you should allow it to produce whatever it's going to produce and to get it out.
Right. Yes. I definitely feel like, as a society, we do need some more education on how to handle loss and grieving, how to support someone, because a lot of things that we do, we want to keep doing. We keep doing because there's nothing out there correcting us. And, we're not researching it on our own because we're just trying to use what we've seen or been told to comfort someone. But it'll be very nice to see, some more education surrounded around that.
And even starting younger.
Yes.
So that's why I was like, man, if this could be adapted for children, oh man, it would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. And one of the things that I enjoyed in the book was there was a portion about allowing people to question God, especially if they've lost children, like unexplainable deaths at a young age. It is actually a natural thing to question God. And if you allow someone to question God and go through this natural cycle of questioning God, generally they will come back around to finding their faith. But when you stop someone from this natural process of asking God why or being mad at God, that's actually what produces a good amount of people being either, say, agnostic or atheist, because they get stuck in being mad at God, and you delayed their process because now they're just stuck in it because you didn't allow them to verbalize their anger, and they had to just sit with it in private. But if you had just allowed them to have that voice, they actually could have cycled out of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
That's so profound.
Yeah, I was like, man, this is amazing.
Yeah, that's so profound.
Yeah, so the book is really great.
Yeah, so, and in your classes that you're taking, the course that you're taking, do you find that anything else may have aroused, as far as what you've dealt with in life beyond, the death of your granddaughter recently? Do you feel like you've been having to, other things have been coming up, oh, wow, that was a loss that I never thought about?
Oh, yep. So after we talked about the societal ways that we deal with loss, then you get into the homework. So this is the part where the people begin to drop.
Yeah.
So we started with 20. We ended with 7. So week 5, it gets real. So we actually have to chart our birth to current, and we have to chart every loss that we can remember.
Wow.
From birth to current, every significant loss that you can remember.
Wow.
And it gives you a very specific procedure of how to do it and to assign which ones are more impactful to your life. And how to do that. And then there's work that comes along with explaining how do you traditionally handle losses. So you have to do this introspective work of what do you normally do when a loss occurs.
Wow.
And what do you want to do differently with this loss?
Wow. And I've never thought about, as far as just myself personally, just looking back and at my life and looking at it from the lens of loss. We have our traumas that we go through, whether it's betrayal or the other stuff, but never from the identity or never from the lenses of a loss. And so when we talk about, I know as far as losses and things that have happened in your life, I know that we also talk about just in the past year, also losing a career that we have built up our life to working towards. For people, our viewers who may not know, we went through the same master's program and to enter education, and went full throttle with being a change agent, and was in it and doing it. And then neither one of us is in that, in that profession right now for different reasons. I know you have your reasons why and I have my reasons why, but it's like, man, we was gung ho. We was for
We're gonna change the world.
Yes.
Change the face. I mean, and I still stand by the program that we went through.
Yeah.
I still tell people, like, I learned some amazingly valuable information throughout that cohort as well.
Yes, I 100%. But then, like, now looking at, like, okay, how do you feel since leaving, or how did you feel with, the way that you had to leave the education? Because we leave jobs, we leave schools, right? And when it's time to leave a school, like, oh, this school's toxic, or I'm looking for this. And then when it's like, okay, I'm past the point of jumping, school's like, I'm not even in it no more.
So I actually had this conversation yesterday because a school reached out to me that I had applied for about a year ago.
Yeah.
And they want to interview with me. And I'm like, I'm not excited. But finances aren't great.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, do I have to go do this interview? Because I want some stability. Yeah. And some benefits would be nice again.
Yeah.
But going back to that point of the loss of finances, loss of stability, but then there was a loss of trust. I don't trust the system to take care of me and provide for my well-being in this building. Right. I don't feel safe in this profession.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you don't feel safe, let's start there. I don't feel safe. And then on top of that, if I'm questioning my safety, then I don't trust that you're going to protect me or stand by me. If something happens, then it's like, how can I go back? How can I go back? And, it's the dangling of the, the benefits, the checks and stuff like that. But when you think about your health and your mental health, it's like, am I about to step back into this place that didn't protect me when I needed them?
And I know how much I give when I'm stepping into this building and I step into this role. Right. I know how much I sacrifice with being a mom.
Right.
And the time that I'm giving up, we all have that mom guilt.
Yeah.
Right? What am I taking away from my family? And now, I have 3 that I've birthed and 3, right, that I've acquired. So now I have 6 boys. and a husband, and I'm going to divert attention from that to someone who can't even provide me with basic safety. I don't know about that.
It's like, do I feel valued enough? Like, okay, you can buy me all the little pizzas and woo-ha teacher gifts, but like at the end of the day, and we're not talking about hypothetical here. Like, you actually have experience that happened to you where you're like, okay, I don't feel safe here because of this happened. Are you able to speak on that as far as, like, what happened, where you were attacked?
And I never was told that I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was trying to be demure. Really, that's the word of 2024, right? I've been trying to be demure about a thing.
That was too. It was the scare tactic that they always put on teachers. Just like they say, you can't leave, it's going to be so hard. Oh, you can't talk about this. Because of what? Like, when you think about it, it's like, all right, I'm already not working. You're already not here. I'm like, it's the scare tactics. They make teachers hush, 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 hush.
Right.
Yeah.
So at this point, I would like to tell my story. But I was physically assaulted by one of my students after weeks and months of reporting escalating violent behaviors in my classroom. From the month of August, this particular student began on the second day of school. School began August 1st, and on August 2nd, I'm already contacting his mother about his disruption to the class. Like, it's that evident on the second day of school. Excuse me, I'd like to talk to you about him.
Yeah.
distracting the class. And it continued on and continued on, and then he wasn't the only.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. And so I contacted his mother, and it continued on and continued on, and I had multiple students in this classroom.
And what grade was this again?
This was a second grade class.
Okay.
It ended up being that there was about 75% of my class that could be classified as undiagnosed something. And so because this was flagged as a general ed class, I was not provided with support and resources. But at the end of the month of August, I actually had threatened to quit, citing that I was afraid for my physical safety. I had one student that was diagnosed and was on psychotropic meds.
Okay. And there was no, so when we just talk about let's go back to the demographics of the class, like we said. So with that, we'll say like large 75% of the students who were not, diagnosed, but you say maybe undiagnosed because there were some things that probably we could see as far as behavioral problems, learning disabilities, or so forth. Were there any, was there anything, as far as like, let's say RTI, any paperwork or any, anything formally written up that, hey, some of these students may be in the process of being, tested or something?
So 99% of my students were RTI for reading and math. One student.
Oh, 99%?
One student was on level for math.
Okay.
And one student, a different student, was on level for reading. And then none of them were in the RTI process. I had to put them there. And then you can't have everybody in RTI. That is like literally an impossible man's job. So then you have to basically pick the lowest of the lowest and help who is the most dire. So you literally rank the children and you have to pick the bottom 6 in math and the bottom 6 in reading. And God forbid there be some in the behavior category, which of course there were, and a lot of times they overlap. So now you have to do monitoring for behavior. And for every subject matter, every time you teach a subject, that's every 30 to 45 minutes.
You have to chart this.
I have to track happy face, sad face, face.
On top of, we still got a whole other, classroom of students that deserve attention, an attentive teacher. And it's like, okay, wait, let me chart this down though. So I know
and there were 7 of these behavior students.
Wow.
4 of them that were extreme. And I say extreme as in throwing chairs and desks, cussing, death threats. I want to kill you. I want to kill your parents.
Coming from the mouths of second graders.
7 and 8-year-olds.
Wow.
And these threats were not treated as credible.
Okay.
There were no consequences given to any of the children. This school district had something called a safety plan that was never enacted for any of these students. I did not learn about this safety plan until a couple of days before I was on my way out.
And so what is that safety plan? What does that mean?
So a safety plan is when it is brought to a principal's attention that there is repeated harm to self or possible harm to others, that we sit down and we come up with a plan of what do we do when this student does XYZ behavior. And then this protocol goes into effect.
And you, as the teacher of record,
I had no clue that there was this safety plan that was available, but all principals, I was told, were aware of safety plans, and safety plans were not done for any of these
after
students.
Repeatedly expressing that, hey, there's a concern.
For 4 students at minimum in August, there were 4 students that were brought to my principal's attention that I was afraid of, is what was with the language of the letter.
And so as the incident occurs, you know, the student attacks you. Now what happens? They just like I'm sorry, let's back up. So let's just back up a minute. So you've been reporting this, you've been reporting it. Now has the child just always come back to the classroom, or is it a situation where, you know, we laugh about it on social media, but do they just get sent to the principal's office, have a snack, and come back? Because that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let's let them chill out. You know,
That's
give them
if
a
they
little
even get
lollipop.
sent out of the class. But yes, they may get sent to the counselor's office,
Okay.
because the procedure in this district is 60 minutes of timeout, if you will. And they do get a snack and calm down in the counselor's office. And then they get to come back.
Right. Now, the question is, you know, it's like, what do we do when we're past that? We've done our classroom management part. We've done the part where we've reached out to the parent. We have put paperwork. We have charted behavior. We've done what we can as a teacher, and now saying, hey, I've exhausted my stuff. I need administrator, I need someone above me to come in and assess the situation or whatever. That's where that safety plan sounds like it could have been now a meeting of like, okay, we've seen the habits, we've seen the recurrent situations. Let me introduce you to the safety plan.
And more specifically, I actually asked for a paraprofessional.
Okay.
And I was told that the district didn't provide paraprofessionals after first grade because the district did not want to pay paraprofessionals to be able to have benefits, medical benefits.
Oh.
So it was the position of the district that we don't want to get them these medical benefits. So regardless of what the need is, because my class was already identified as this EIP class. So they know that this class needs some help. So you're getting EIP services, but they're not going to get a paraprofessional.
Yeah.
Because of health benefits. Like that. But then we'll talk about differentiation all day and no child left behind. Well, this sounds like some children that are about to get left behind to me.
Yeah, we know there are so many flaws and so many loopholes or things that happen. What is it that you want people to really understand from your situation?
In this situation, we're skipping out on a whole lot of things. Well, now, we have to go back that there were other protocols and procedures that were lacking. So we were supposed to have an emergency system called an Epic mic system. It's a lanyard that you wear around your neck so that when an emergency happens, you just push this button and call for help. Back in the day, there was an emergency panic button on the wall.
Yeah, I know that they have a something like that. It's called like Syntagix or something like that. I know some schools have it. So this is, at the time, your school didn't have that either.
Right. So ours is called Epic, but mine was not working. Okay. And so since September, I had 3 documented emails
about yours not working.
About mine not working, to where I was not responded to.
Okay.
And the one on the wall would actually dial the room next door.
Okay. So I'm just listening because it was just so many things after things where it's like, okay, so now the emergency button on the wall, the traditional one's not working. The one around your neck that you're supposed to have, you have reported 3 times email that you don't have.
So I don't have that either. Okay. So now a boy grabs my arm and begins windmill hitting me. And now I have to just, what do you do when you have a gun to your head? You got to keep your kids and yourself safe. He was actually actively throwing other items, and he was postured to throw a book and a laptop through the class next. And I went and I stood in between in between him and the class where he was postured to throw these books in the laptop and possibly hit a child,
Right.
where we're grateful that the pencils didn't hit the children. So I stood there so that he wouldn't hit anyone with these other objects. And then he latched onto me and began hitting me. And so I tried to get him out the classroom. And so it was stated that I used excessive force because I simply, he dropped his weight on the ground in front of the door. Once I got him to the door, now I said he was latched onto me, and I was simply walking towards the door while he was latched onto me, and he dropped his weight down, and I slid him out the door with my foot still flat like this.
Almost like a drag.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But they said that was excessive force. And they also called it angrily and aggressively removing him. And I ran to the phone and I called for help immediately.
Mm-hmm. And so when that happened, did someone come to the room immediately, or like
he was put in the hallway?
Okay.
And I'm not sure what happened with him after that. But I do know that there were no consequences given, and he was back in the class the next day.
Okay.
And 2 more incidents happened with him that week.
Okay. And so where did that leave you now?
Ultimately, I was then humiliated. I was sat in an area of high teacher traffic to be ridiculed for 2 days. Then I was given a 1-day suspension. And on the day of my 1-day suspension, Friday, I got fired on my day off. I was called and I was told that they wanted to fire me because a 1-day suspension was not enough. Mm. And I was trying to fight the 1-day suspension, and now I've been fighting, and we are now at a federal lawsuit about the whole thing.
Right. And so what made you, I would say, because, you could have just said, you know what, I'm fired. I leave it alone. Of course, the district always feels like the better man, right? Like, okay, they have the most power. What made you say, no, I want to fight this. I'm still going to pursue. What made you feel like that you needed to continue to pursue?
They reported me to the Georgia PSC. Mm-hmm. And basically now my teacher license is flagged. Mm-hmm. And you have now dragged my name, which is unacceptable. Mm. You cannot drag my reputation. Right. That becomes unacceptable. And so now I took the steps through the EEOC, which I hate that our president is trying to get rid of, because that is very important. Mm-hmm. And so the EEOC has now issued me my right to sue them in federal court. And that is where I am at now, is that we are in the midst of the federal court. And so I hope that that will be found in my favor.
Right. Well, man, I mean, that's a lot to digest. But what advice would you give to any other teachers that may be facing the same thing right now, or like, hey, we just know that this is unfortunately too common in a lot of classrooms. And if there's some teacher right now that you could say, hey, before this even gets to you, or let me just give you some advice on what you should do to protect yourself.
Paper trail, email everything, send an email about everything to make sure that it is known that you are afraid about escalating behaviors, that there is a concern about these behaviors. Send these emails to yourself. Mm-hmm. You need to have a copy of these emails for yourself. Also, using the EEOC process to make sure that if there is any inequity with how paraprofessionals are being dispersed throughout your school. Mm-hmm. And so there's more that could be said about that. Mm-hmm. That there were white teachers that had full-time paraprofessionals. Mm-hmm. And I did not have one.
Oh man. Well, again, I thank you for being so transparent with your life story, your losses and the things that you're going through. But again, like I said, you have a testimony, and what you're sharing right now, somebody's listening and somebody's going to hear it and say, okay, let me document this. So, I mean, thank you so much for being here. And please share with our viewers how they can get in contact with you and learn more about some of the initiatives that you're doing.
Yes. So please feel free to visit me at g2glide.org, O-R-G, not .com, to support my newest project. I have written this book called Globetrotter's Guide to Ghana. I shared last time that we both visited Ghana, and I have finally put together this project, which is an alphabet book for adults that tells you everything from A to Z of how to visit Ghana. I hope that you would visit the motherland. And everyone always asks, what did you do? Where did you go? What do you eat there? What does it look like there? Mm-hmm. This book answers those very questions. And you can order your copy on g2glide.org.
Thank you so much. And so that's all we have for you today. Please make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment. Please press the subscribe button, guys. Please. You can also follow us on social media at Unhappy Teacher Podcast.
I have one more thing.
Please share with them. Let me know.
And a portion of every sale also goes back to swim scholarships. I said for my baby girl, she drowned. And so we are going to be doing swim scholarships to bring awareness so that other little girls are prepared and adequately know how to swim, so that no family is met with the tragedy that I've experienced.
Yes, and we're going to put that in the show notes. So if you want to learn more about that and purchase her book here, we know that every dollar is worth it to go towards a scholarship. So we're going to put that in the notes. Check the notes and make sure that you go and support. Thank you guys, and we're out.